Hello everybody, I hope you can hear me. My name's Elisa Gray and I'm going to be doing a talk today on sympathetic magic and poppets. I was supposed to be borrowing somebody's computer, but unfortunately due to technical problems and them going out, I can no longer do that. So I'm on a wonky iPad with the camera facing the wrong way, so it looks like I'm looking out the window, but I'm looking at you. I also apologise for the fact that I'm looking like I've been in a road accident, because I've been in a road accident. I knocked off my push bike and lost my front seat on the pavement, and I'm in between dentists, so I do apologise. I'm embracing the crone. So that's my excuse anyway. I do apologise also for cats roaming around the place. There are many of them, and they will interfere. So today I want to talk to you about sympathetic magic. I had a wonderful PowerPoint prepared. I've actually got it on my phone, so I might be able to do something with it, kind of waving it at the screen, and show you some of the things that I'm talking about. So, deep breath, now we begin. Back in the day, in traditional witchcraft, the witch was believed to be able to send out her spirit, and she could heal by doing this, she could harm by doing this. Obviously this is sort of pre-witches, this is cunning folk, the kind of the healer. They got paid for their art. They could help people in many ways, find lost property, they were great with animals, all sorts of things like that. And the witch was able to springs in the air. The witch was supposed to send out her spirits and do these things while she was somewhere else. This then kind of morphed into the idea of the familiar. The witch is familiar, the spirit taking form, very shamanic in its sense. Ancient, the ancient shaman, the traditional witch, both walked the land, knew the land, collected the magic from the land, and did this kind of sending out the spirit, the familiar, the spirit guide. Of course, this then went to toads, black cats, dogs, rats, bats, owls. Black cats were nearly wiped out during the witch trials, sadly, by people who believed that they were evil and witches' familiars. So I did have a little picture of a witch with her familiars. And I've got some information here that basically this idea of being able to sort of do things from a distance traditionally is the idea of sympathetic magic. Now this didn't start in England, in Britain. The witches were sending out the spirits, familiars. In other cultures, the idea of sympathetic magic using an object was basically was starting. Now, there's a chap called Solomon Reinach, and he believes that some of the cave paintings that were actually done back in the prehistoric times were the starts of sympathetic magic. And the idea of sympathetic magic is like for like. So, I've got a little poppet here. So, this is a spirit doll. So, if I'm cruel to this doll, then the receiver, who this doll is spliced to, will feel what this doll is subjected to. That's the idea. Similarly, if I heal this doll, if I, be nice to her and heal her and do healing magic on her, the person linked to this doll will get better. Now, I made a pussycat one, because I've got a poorly cat called Charlie, and he's here somewhere. Oh, he's here. This is Charlie. This is Charlie's poppet. Charlie was born with cat flu, sadly. His mum had it, and he was born with it. And he's a year old, just turned a year old, and he's been ill all the time. I made a poppet of Charlie and thought, right, let's test this out. And he's better. So you'll get all your non-believers of magic and sympathetic magic going, oh no, it doesn't work. It does. I have evidence that it works. So, cave paintings were the first example of it. Obviously, what's the first thing people think of when they talk about poppets? Voodoo dolls, racism, every doll now, you'll hear people, oh, it's a voodoo doll. No, it's not. The voodoo doll is very specific to voodoo. And also, the misnomer there that they were always used for harm, no. Voodoo dolls in the culture that they're from, using African voodoo, not American voodoo, were used for healing, just like the Shamanic Ongon doll or other examples of healing dolls. Right, so coming on to this country and the crazy things that happened in Great Britain, the mandrake, this little fella, the mandrake root, was supposed to be able to come to life. Okay, so you boil it, you stew it, do weird things to it, and it comes to life, and you can get it to do what you want it to do. So it goes off to do your job for you. You can sit there relaxing, off goes the mandrake root. And this notion of something working for you is very much still along the lines of the familiar, going off to do your bidding, to take the magic. This is very much the same with the poppets. The alchemists also like this idea, and they spent lots of time trying to create a homunculus. Now, the recipe for the homunculus is quite horrific. Take a pint of semen and stew it in a gourd, and out will come this little creature, you know, that will do what you want it to do. Not sure about that. Jewish folklore, cats. Jewish folklore had the Golem, this little fella. And he, in a sense, was the first mechanoid. The homunculus was the first sort of humanoid. The Golem was the first mechanoid. It was supposed to be made from inanimate objects and would do the same thing. Go out and do your bidding. Then, of course, you've got the Doofur doll. The Doofur doll, in fact, I think my Doofur doll, oh, she's right here. Yeah, here she is, my Doofur doll. And my Doofur doll does for me what I ask her to do. So when I leave the caravan and there's crazy cats in here, I say, Doofur doll, don't let the cats tear up my caravan. And she goes, okay. And then she keeps an eye on the caravan for me. That's the idea. So, the poppet is quite specific. Now, the first one that they ever found was the Venus of Wholesales. Now, she's an Upper Paleolithic figurine, and she was found in Germany in a cave. She's weird. This is her. She looks like some kind of weird root. And, yeah, that's a humanoid, the first humanoid figure. So, back right in the Paleolithic time of our history, somebody made that in the same principle as we make these. In ancient Greece, we're talking 4th century BC, we're going back way in time. Obviously, magic came from the east, hit Greece and Rome. You've got the colossi. Now, these little things were used for harm, mainly. So they would bind the hands behind the back, and blind them and do horrible things, stick nails in them and all sorts of horrible stuff. And it was meant to confuse the person who this was connected to. They often used to bury them around property to guard their homes. Similarly in Rome, that's a nasty piece of work there that somebody had done to hurt somebody. But back in the East and in the old times, magic was a part of life. The Egyptians had the god Heka. They didn't even have a temple to Heka, because just by living they were worshipping him, because magic created life. Curses, healing, it was all accepted. Of course, then we do have an example of an African voodoo doll. That one grinning away there. So this is across culture. This was going on with poppets. Coming back here, we've got the Bridiogue. You'll see examples of the Bridget doll. Obviously the goddess Bridget, the Celtic goddess. Young girls would carry the Bridiogue round to houses, knock on the door in spring, and receive gifts. And Bridget was blessing the home. The corn dolly. These were the life of the fields, the wheat, made as an offering at the end of the harvest. And then, of course, we come on, to the obvious poppets. The healing, that's an Ongon doll. That's a Siberian Ongon doll. I love his coat. I quite like that. And underneath is a Siberian, a South American Kunanuchu doll. That's another example of a Siberian, a shamanic healing doll. And the idea was that you put the spirits, illness was seen as a malevolent spirit, and you take it out of the person and you put it in the doll, so that the doll holds the illness and carries the illness and the person's free of it. This is still obviously being used in shamanic cultures across the world. Okay, so everybody knows that, you know, the sort of traditional harming of the puppet. Joan Flowers, who was one of the Belvoir witches, and this was near Grantham in Lincolnshire. She was sacked from her job because they thought that she was stealing, her and her daughters. And she was believed to have caused the whole family of the Earl and Countess of Rutland to become ill. And she did that by using the glove of the person. So by having the glove, something that belonged to the Earl of Rutland, she then used sympathetic magic via the glove to curse the family. She also had a familiar, a cat called Rutterkin. So she was supposed to be able to do this, sending out a spirit, the familiar, and the sympathetic magic. Similarly with the Pendle witches, very famous. Obviously they were accused by the youngest member of the family, Janet Device, who it changed the law. Children were allowed to testify against adults from that case because she was 9. Well, her brother was supposed to have dug up a corpse and taken the corpse's teeth and buried those teeth along with a clay poppet. So obviously when we sort of talk about the witch trials, and most people were innocent in the witch trials, which is, you know, there were midwives, people like that, some have said, oh yeah, that's evidence of real witchcraft in the case of the Pendle witches because of the poppets. Now, anybody who's ever been down to Cornwall, to Boscastle, to the Museum of Witchcraft and Magic, which is one of my favourite places in the entire country, will have seen the poppet collection. Now this was actually made by Cecil Williams, who was the curator of the museum for a long time, and it was meant to cause harm. And there's quite an interesting sort of story that everybody concerned apparently, you know, suffered due to this bad feeling between these people. This one's quite cool because I've sort of used the head of a doll, you know, like the traditional sort of doll, and then gone for it, you know, sticking the pins in. And obviously there's so many of these like patterns to make puppets now on the internet, and how you stuff them, you know, put the crystal in a certain part of it and herbs in another and all this sort of thing. Obviously originally, back in the day when this sort of started, it was having something of the person that made it work. Apparently, I think it was Ramesses, one of the Ramesses III, I think it was, his concubines tried to kill him through sympathetic magic, and they had a little, you know, a little waxen or something image of him, and they were trying to use that. He eventually got his throat cut, so it obviously didn't work, but yeah, they had a go. And it was combining the actual puppet with something of the person. So in Charlie's puppet, there's some of Charlie's fur I put in there. I thought, well, you know, we'll try it properly, you know, so I put a little dash of his fur in there. And without the actual something from the person or the animal who it's intended to work with, you know, it's obviously just for fun. I can't imagine that. Maybe just intent, if somebody's really, you know, sort of strong enough, their intent could use it alone. But I think the little bits of the person or the animal just gives it extra oomph, and makes it work. So that's the sort of the idea, you know, and this has been going on for so long. When you think about this, was pre-Christ in the back in the day, the early days of magic, that people were using these forms of dolls, of sympathetic magic, And sometimes using the tablets, you know, writing it down on a tablet, using the name of the other person, because names were seen, identity was seen as very sacred and important. Apparently the Egyptians believed that we all have a secret name, and if you knew that, you could use that to send, you know, do the sympathetic magic, send the curse, send the healing, whichever one it was. So yeah, I mean, obviously the misnomer now, I think, I mean, I showed my friend this, my doofer doll, and the first thing she said was, "Is that voodoo?" I said no, you know, but because there's this association with the voodoo doll, and something to do with twine, you know, gave her the impression that it was to do with voodoo. No, you know, and this is, I guess, the issue when people talk about cultural appropriation, things like that. But there isn't really an issue with puppets because everybody did it. You know, the Greeks did it, the Romans did it, the Egyptians did it, the Africans did it, we did it. It's everywhere, and was going on for a very, very, very long time. So yeah, I didn't particularly, I mean, I've been a witch from birth, and I've always sort of done something to do with witchcraft, but until very recently I've never used puppets. It's quite strange, you know. I've always sort of, I think, you know, sent out the intent, done that kind of thing, manifestation, but I've never used puppets. I've had little things around, but like, oh, that's cute, but I've never done anything with it. So since I've used the Charlie one, I am definitely going to be using more puppets and spirit dolls. This one was actually made for a course that I did, and she's a goddess spirit doll, and we were encouraged to, you know, to treat it with love and like a baby and hold her, you know, and bring the child, nurture the child in us, which I guess is another great thing to use them for, you know, is to sort of rekindle the child within. Making them, I'm in the process of making this one, and it's fun, you know, it's great fun. So that's what I suggest you do. Make yourself a puppet. There's many patterns on the internet, and if you want to sort of try the sympathetic magic element of it, you know, then sort of go for that. You know, get something of whoever you're going to heal, or an animal that you're going to heal, and put a little bit of fur in, or a little bit of their hair, fingernails, and a crystal that would do the job. I put prehnite in this, in the Charlie one, because that's supposed to work with cats. I also put, you know, some chamomile and bits and bobs in herb-wise that are quite calming. And he had ear mites, so I undid the ear, you know, to let the ear mites out. And obviously I was using some veterinary drops as well, but we've cured the ear mites. So yeah, and Charlie loves it and often steals it to play with it. So don't Charlie, yes you do, don't you? So that's my talk on sympathetic magic and puppets. So obviously starting way back with the Wholesales Venus from the Paleolithic period all the way to modern day, and many patterns on the internet, touching many cultures and used in many ways. Shamanically, another thing that they used to do with puppets, healing dolls, was use them as spirit houses. So when a very powerful shaman died and that they weren't ready to lose him, they would sort of say, you know, invite his spirit to move in to a doll. And they would revere the doll, they would sit it on an altar, they would talk to it, they would meditate, they would journey with it, believing that the shaman's spirit was housed. And that also was another thing with traditional witchcraft, was using the spirit house to keep a spirit, to, you know, make it welcome, give it somewhere to live. Which is another one of my favourite subjects, that the similarities between traditional witchcraft and shamanism, very, very similar. So I am so sorry about the PowerPoint and the fact that I couldn't show that properly. I mean, obviously I think images are necessary with this, you know, to sort of get a grasp of just how horrible some of them look, that have been used for harm, and how, you know, how really cool some of them look. I mean, I love this guy, I love this coat on this guy, he's great. How they've been sort of loved and revered for healing. So no, don't take your puppets lightly. Give them a cuddle, give them lots of love, and if you don't like somebody, you know, then your secret's safe with me. Okay. So thank you very much. If anybody's got any questions or anything, feel free to fire away. I'm just looking at the comments here. Let's have a look and see if we've got any questions. Okay, right. So then, let's have a look. A pint of semen, indeed, yes. You can just imagine a group of alchemists all sitting around going, I think we'll try and make a homunculus tomorrow. How about it, lads? And they'll be like, oh yeah, okay. Magazine, anyone? So going off into the cubicle with some sort of 15th century dirty book to provide a mutual pint of semen. Yeah, you know, virile. Yeah, anything else? My puppets are going into the forest with me tomorrow. Lovely, absolutely. I take mine in the car. Yeah, I've been collecting stuff to begin making them. Fantastic. You'll love it. It really does bring out the inner child. Thank you. Interesting. That's lovely. Thank you. Yeah, Lincolnshire Witches. Absolutely. Indeed. Casting in the show. Always do. Live near Pendle. I'd love to see Pendle Hill. I'm going to have to do it. I say it. I'm not that far away, really. I should just do it. Yeah. Road trip. Yeah. Creepy. Yeah. Me or the puppets, both, yeah. Boss Castle. Yeah, brilliant. Go to Boss Castle, you'll love it. You'll love it. So, yeah, anybody else got anything, you know, feel free to message me. I'm on the group, so, and show me your puppets. You know, that's something, you know, show me your puppets. I'd love to see everybody's puppets. And I'm going to make a white one, I think, for the white cats that I've got. So, say bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.